Open the cupboard of an American kitchen in 1954 and look for a moment at what is actually on the shelf. A tall cardboard cylinder of oats, a paper sack of flour, a few flat tins of sardines, and a taller tin of salmon. A glass bottle of milk with the cream risen to the neck. A dish of butter, a bowl of eggs, a loaf of bread under a cloth that will be stale by Thursday. And down in the corner, a crock with something quietly souring inside it. Now notice what is not there. Not one bright printed bag. Not one long paragraph of ingredients you cannot pronounce. Nothing built in a laboratory. Every single thing in that cupboard is a food the woman's own grandmother would have known on sight. And the woman who cooked from that cupboard was slim. So was her husband. So were her children. Not because they were trying, and not because they were on a plan. They were slim because of what was on the shelf. Today, I want to take you through that kitchen, one item at a time. The 15 foods an ordinary American woman ate, day in and day out in the 1950s. The foods that quietly kept a whole family slim. None of them are exotic. None of them are expensive. Most are still sitting in your grocery store right now, waiting on the shelf. We did not lose these foods. We just walked past them, slowly over the years, and reached for something brighter instead. This is not a diet. I have no diet to sell you, and I would not trust a soul who did. This is simply a remembering. This is what was in the kitchen, before the kitchen changed. Before we begin, do me one small kindness. If your mother or your grandmother cooked from a kitchen like this one, tap that subscribe button. We are a small and quiet community here, and what we do is remember the good things together. Pull up a chair and sit with me a while. Number 15, oatmeal, the real slow kind. Breakfast in a 1950s kitchen very often began with a pot of oats on the stove. Not the kind that comes in a paper packet with the sugar already folded in. The real kind. Whole oats, cooked slow with a little salt and a little milk, stirred with a wooden spoon while the coffee percolated beside it. A bowl of that oatmeal was a quiet, heavy, honest sort of food. It sat in the stomach. A woman who ate real oats at 7 in the morning was not hungry again at 9:30, scratching around for something to nibble. She was not hungry until the midday meal, the way a body is supposed to space itself out. The oats cost almost nothing, and they were filling in the way that real food is filling, the way that lasts. Number 14, eggs. Every morning in kitchens all across America, there was the small sound of an egg cracked against the rim of a bowl. Eggs were the backbone of the 1950s breakfast, fried in a little butter, softly scrambled or boiled and set in a little cup. For a long stretch of years, people were told to fear the egg. The woman of 1954 was never afraid of hers. She ate them the way her own mother had, with no worry at all, and she was slim. An egg is as simple as food gets. It is a single ingredient, and it has been a single ingredient since the beginning of the world. A breakfast built on eggs does not leave you rummaging in a cupboard an hour later. There was almost always a pot of soup somewhere in the life of a 1950s kitchen. The woman of that time understood something about soup in her hands without ever putting it into words. A bowl of soup before the meal takes the sharp edge off the hunger. You have your bowl of broth and vegetables, and by the time the main part of supper arrives, you are already halfway content. You eat the rest of the meal calm. You do not fall on it. The soup was made from scraps and bones and the soft vegetables that needed using. A ham bone, an onion, a few wrinkled carrots, a handful of beans, water, thyme. It cost next to nothing, and it quietly made sure that nobody sat down to the main meal so hungry that they ate past the point of enough. Soup was portion control, and nobody ever called it that, and nobody ever felt it as a restriction. Number 12. Real bread. Bread has been made into a frightening word in our time. Stay with me, because the woman of 1954 ate bread nearly every day of her life, and she was slim. You must understand what her bread actually was. Flour, water, yeast, salt, and a little thyme. That is the whole of it. Often she baked it herself, and the smell filled the house on baking day. That bread went stale by the third day, because real bread does. It has nothing in it to stop it. Compare that to much of the bread sold today, the soft sliced kind that stays strangely soft and bright for 2 or 3 weeks. Read the side of that bag sometime. You will find a long paragraph, and most of it is not flour and not water and not yeast. The woman of 1954 ate bread freely and stayed slim because her bread was simply bread. A slice of it, with a little real butter, was a satisfying and finished thing. Number 11. Liver and other organ meats. This one will make some of you wrinkle your nose, and that is exactly the point. In a 1950s kitchen, once a week or so there was liver and onions on the supper table, or a beef heart, slow cooked. The organ meats were the cuts that were cheap because they were humble. A woman bought liver because it cost very little and fed the family well, and because her mother had cooked it. It was strong food. A small portion was deeply satisfying. Nobody sat and ate plate after plate of liver and onions. The food itself said, "A modest amount of me is plenty." We have nearly lost organ meats from the American table. They came to seem old-fashioned, and we left them behind. But the woman who ate them was eating some of the most nourishing food that has ever been in a kitchen, affordable and in small, honest portions. Number 10. Tinned fish, sardines and salmon. Open the cupboard of a 1950s kitchen and you would reliably find a few flat tins of sardines and a tall tin of salmon. Pantry food. Cheap, kept for months, always there. On a day when there was no time or no money, the tin of fish became the meal. Sardines on toast, a salmon patty, the tinned salmon mixed with a little egg, and a few breadcrumbs fried in the pan. Supper in 15 minutes for pennies. It was plain, modest, real food, filling in the proper way. The tinned fish is still on the shelf in your store today, exactly where it always was. We simply stopped reaching for it. Number 9. Garden vegetables in their season. Here is something genuinely hard for us to picture now. She could not get everything all year round. There were no green beans flown across the world in January. A woman ate the vegetables that were in season. In high summer, tomatoes warm from the vine, corn, beans, and squash. In autumn, the hard-keeping vegetables, cabbages, carrots, and turnips. In deep winter, she ate from the jars she had canned when things were plentiful. Eating with the seasons meant her plate was always full of vegetables, because vegetables were simply what was available, cheap and good. The vegetable was not a sad little side garnish. It was the body of the meal, and a plate that is mostly vegetables with a modest amount of meat alongside fills a person up on very few calories and a great deal of goodness. She did not arrange this on purpose. The season arranged it for her. Number 8. Real butter. Now I'm going to say something the modern kitchen has been taught to flinch at. The 1950s woman ate real butter every day without one moment of fear, and she was slim. There was a yellow dish of butter on her table at most meals. It went on the bread, on the vegetables, into the pan. It was butter, cream, churned, one ingredient. And here is the quiet truth of it. Real fat, eaten with a meal, satisfies a person. It tells the body, in a deep and ancient way, that a proper meal has been eaten, and that the search for food can stop now. A modest amount of real butter on real bread is a small, complete, contented thing. You do not finish it and immediately want more. The not being afraid was itself part of her slimness because she ate her food, felt satisfied, and got up from the table and did not think about food again until the next meal. Number 7. The potato. The poor potato. We have spent years treating it as something close to an enemy. The woman of 1954 would have found that bewildering because the potato was on her table several times a week and she was slim, and so were her children. But look at how she served it. Boiled with a little butter and salt, baked in its skin, mashed with milk and butter, roasted alongside the Sunday joint. Cooked plainly like that, the potato is a humble, filling, satisfying food, and it has a clear and natural stopping point. You cannot eat very many plain boiled potatoes. The body says enough. What happened to the potato is not the potato's fault. We took it, sliced it paper thin, fried it in oil, salted it hard, and sealed it in a bright bag designed so that the hand goes back and back and back again. That bag is not the potato. The woman of 1954 ate the potato. She did not have the bag. Number 6. Meat from the butcher in its proper portion. There was meat on the 1950s table. Good meat, but I want you to see how much and where it sat in the meal. Meat was expensive. A family watched what it spent at the butcher. A piece of meat on a 1950s plate was not the vast slab that overhangs the edges of a plate today. It was a reasonable, modest portion, sitting beside the potatoes and the vegetables, which took up most of the plate. The Sunday roast fed the family on Sunday. Then it fed them again on Monday, sliced cold. What was left went into the soup or the hash on Tuesday. One piece of meat, stretched with care across several days. That respect for meat as something a little precious meant the 1950s plate was naturally balanced. It was the budget that built that plate, and the plate the budget built happened to be exactly the kind that keeps a body slim. Number 5. Whole milk in the glass bottle. The milk of the 1950s kitchen came to the door in a heavy glass bottle, left on the step in the cool of the early morning, with a thick plug of cream risen into the neck overnight. It was whole milk. Full, complete, unskimmed, the way it came from the cow. Nobody had taken anything out of it. A glass of whole milk is nourishing and satisfying. It has fat in it, and the fat satisfies, and a child who drank a glass of whole milk had drunk something that genuinely filled a corner of him. Think about what we drink now in its place: the sweet fizzing drinks, the bright bottles of sugar, the fruit drinks that are mostly sugar wearing the costume of fruit. The woman of 1954 poured milk, or she poured water, and that was very nearly the whole list. We will come back to this because it matters more than almost anything. Number 4. Fruit in the bowl in its season. On the table or the counter of a 1950s kitchen, there was very often a bowl of fruit. It held whatever the season had given. Apples in the autumn, kept in the cool. Oranges as a treat, especially at Christmas. Peaches, plums, and berries in the warm months. That bowl of fruit was the snack of the 1950s home. It is what a child was given when hungry between meals, on the rare occasion that snacking happened at all. A piece of whole fruit has sweetness in it. The gentle, honest sweetness a body likes, but it comes wrapped in water and in fiber, and so it fills you and slows you down. It is very hard to overeat an apple. The fruit bowl was the only snack cupboard that the kitchen had, and by its own plain nature, it could not be abused. Number 3. The fermented foods. The crock in the corner. In a great many 1950s kitchens, especially homes that remembered the old country. There was a crock or jars of fermented and pickled vegetables, sauerkraut, cabbage salted and left to sour, cucumbers turned into proper pickles in brine, beets put up, and other vegetables besides. A spoonful of sauerkraut, or a single pickle alongside the meal, was an ordinary, everyday thing. It was a way of keeping the garden's gift through the long winter, the practical reason. But these soured, living foods also sat gently with digestion. The woman of 1954 did not have the modern words for why a little fermented food made her feel well and settled. She simply knew that it did because her mother had known it, and she kept the crock in the corner. It cost almost nothing: cabbage and salt and time. Number 2, the leftover, food of which nothing was wasted. This one is not a single food. It is a way of thinking about food, and it shaped every plate in the 1950s kitchen. Nothing was thrown away. Nothing. The Sunday roast became Monday's cold meat. The bones became the stock, and the stock became the soup. Stale bread became the bread pudding, or was crumbed for the meatloaf, or fried for breakfast. The last of the mashed potato became potato cakes the next morning. Cooking this way meant a woman was not forever making vast new quantities of food. She worked through what she already had, with care, stretching it. Portions were naturally modest because the food was being made to last. A household that wastes nothing does not cook in great excess. And not having mountains of surplus food sitting about asking to be finished is a quiet and powerful part of why that family stayed slim. Number 1, and number 1 is not a food at all. Number 1 is what she drank. I have saved this for last because, of everything in that whole kitchen, this is the one I believe matters most, and the one we have changed most completely. Go back to that 1950s cupboard one last time and ask yourself a simple question. What did this family actually drink? The answer is very short. They drank water. They drank milk, the real whole milk in the glass bottle. The grown ones drank coffee, percolated on the stove, or tea, and on a hot day there might be a pitcher of lemonade, made by hand from real lemons. That, very nearly, is the entire list. Look at what that means. Almost nothing this family drank, across an entire ordinary day, had sugar dissolved in it. Their drinks were not a source of sweetness and not a source of calories. A drink was a thing that quenched your thirst. That was a drink's whole job. Now think, gently and honestly, about what fills the modern day. The sweet fizzing drinks with their many spoonfuls of sugar in every glass. The fruit drinks that are sugar in a fruit costume. The coffee that has become a tall, sweet dessert in a paper cup. The sweetened iced teas. A person today can take in an enormous amount of sugar without ever once sitting down to anything they would call food. They drink it. And drinking it, it slips by almost unnoticed. The woman of 1954 was slim, in the end. Not only because of the 15 good things in her kitchen, but because of this one enormous thing that was simply absent from it. She did not drink her sugar. The option was barely there. Water, milk, coffee, tea. She drank those, and she ate her real food at her 3 meals, and the slimness took care of itself. So there it is. 15 things from one ordinary kitchen in 1954. The slow oats and the eggs, the pot of soup and the real bread, the liver and the tinned fish, the garden vegetables and the butter she never feared, the plain potato and the modest piece of meat, the whole milk and the bowl of fruit. The crock of sauerkraut and the deep old habit of wasting nothing at all. And above everything else, a day with almost no sugar to drink. Not one of those things was a diet. Not one was a struggle. There was no plan pinned to that woman's icebox. There was just a kitchen, an ordinary American kitchen, full of real and honest and inexpensive food, and a family that ate it 3 times a day and got up from the table satisfied. You can walk into your own grocery store this very week and find almost every one of these 15 things still sitting there. They never left. The oats, the eggs, the tinned fish, the butter, the potatoes, the cabbage. They are patient. They are waiting on the shelf, the same as they ever were. We were the ones who walked past them. If a kitchen like the one I have described today reminds you of your own mother or your grandmother, I would love for you to tell me about it in the comments below. Tell me the one food she always had in the house. Tell me what was on the supper table when you were small. That is how we keep these things alive. We remember them out loud, together. Thank you for sitting with me today. I will see you next week. Margaret.